So one of the things that keeps coming up a lot lately, more and more and more, is talking to people or coming across people who are looking for a low EMF sauna because they're either dealing with some type of chronic Lyme. A lot of people have different types of mold poisoning or mold infections. And a lot of them have come across the research by Dr. Klinghardt. And, I've spent some time talking to a few of these people within the last week or so. And it reminded me of a video that I wanted to do from last year, and I just never got around to it. I'm going to do a follow-up video to this one where I actually use meters and demonstrate a lot of this stuff to make it quantifiable for people that don't have access to the equipment. But I also want to preface with a disclaimer that and by no means am I trying to be disrespectful or anything like that to Dr. Klinghardt. He is probably he's probably single-handedly responsible for me getting, I would say, over the hump when it comes to learning about retroviral infections and how your environment can affect your aluminum levels. And, some of his stuff is very hard to digest. I've spent many hours, hours and hours and hours on Friday and Saturday nights where, I'll put YouTube videos. He's got some 3-hour lectures on YouTube that are really, really good. Only trouble is they're in German, so you have to sit there and listen to the translator. And it's actually good, though. It forces you to take notes and really pay attention to everything. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, by no means am I trying to be disrespectful or discredit any of his recommendations towards saunas. However, I see that people are struggling in regards to finding a good sauna to detox some heavy metals and pesticides and glyphosate like he talks about. And I'm also testing the foot bath method that he talks about that is most likely quicker for getting heavy metals out, but not as effective as the far-infrared sauna for getting glyphosate and other pesticides out. So that's an interesting dichotomy there. In the next couple of months, I should have some definitive results from my own experiments. And anyway, so let's get into the actual sauna recommendations part. So Dr. Klinghardt recommends sunlight and saunas on the homepage of his website. And this is an older recommendation. And in his defense, he's super busy, right? And he's got a million things going on. And their primary focus is working with the patients at the Sophia Institute or clinic, however you want to call it, and doing research and experimental things. And they don't have time to sit there and go through every single sauna and make sure, this and that and the other is not different. I just want to tell you guys that there's a huge difference between a sunlight and impulse and a sunlight and signature in regards to the EMF levels. And there's also a huge difference between any of the sunlight and saunas. This isn't about sunlight and saunas. It's just he had it on the page, and people have asked, so I'm going to comment on it. One of the things that is incredibly misleading that if Dr. Klinghardt had time to just do saunas, right, and he would seriously dig into this stuff, most of the far infrared saunas that say that they're low EMF, they're really not low EMF across the board. They're only lower-ish EMF in one type, which is magnetic fields. And that's what most of the sauna companies are showing you. Generally, they only use a Gauss meter to go in the sauna. And again, this is why I'm going to do a follow-up video, because I have all of this equipment in the next room over there. It's very difficult for me to do that and do a sauna session and explain all this. So I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. And so most of the sauna companies that have third-party EMF testing, they take a heater out of the sauna and send it to a lab in another state, and they test the heater. But what you have to be really careful of, and what Dr. Klinghardt is explaining, but not directly in a lot of the videos about EMF, and this is the reason that he wants you to shut the circuit breakers off at night. This is the same reason that he got me to do it, just by watching his lectures. And then since I own the equipment, I was like, well, shit, I'm going to go and test this stuff in my own bedroom. Let me measure electric fields, X amount of distance from the wall. Oh my God, my headboard is this close to the outlets, whatever. Let's measure it there. Let's pull it out 2 feet and see how, much of a fall-off rate there is. Turns out there is quite a steep fall-off rate. And then now finally, let's take body voltage measurements, then go shut the circuit breakers off, and then come back, measure for the electric fields, measure for body voltage. And before you shut the breakers off, check dirty electricity, because you still got an active ground wire in there, which is quite an interesting predicament to be in. So anyway, the reason that that's so important, and the reason that I'm putting that in here, is because when you're in a far infrared sauna or any kind of sauna like this, even some of the steam saunas where you sit close to the heater or the heat projector, whatever you want to call it, you have either AC or DC current. And if it's DC, there's a transformer somewhere in the sauna to step, to convert it. And so you're in really close proximity to the electrical or the heat, or I can't think of the right word, but basically whatever the heating element is for the type of sauna that you're in, it's being powered by something, and your body is really close to it. So in the same way that you would want a healing a sleep sanctuary, or you would want low electric fields, low magnetic fields, low body voltage in a sleeping environment, the intention when you come into the sauna is to be in a parasympathetic state, to be really relaxed, and you don't want to be switching back and forth from parasympathetic to sympathetic from any outside influence other than your heat stress response. I mean, and if possible, you want to sweat at a lower temperature so that you can sweat longer without, kicking those responses in. Sorry, it's getting warm in here, and the temperature is in the upper 130s. And when I'm talking and doing videos, I like to keep it under 140, because I don't want to get winded. I don't want my circulation or my heart rate to increase too much, because then I start, it affects me talking to you guys and keeping my train of thought to explain this. But it just hit me today that I've never done these videos, and I intended to. And I want to help people, and I also want to say thank you to Dr. Klinghardt for all of his contributions and his sauna contributions. He's got great information about using saunas to detox certain things. And awesome information on when saunas may be not the best solution. But anyway, so just like you would want a true low EMF, and let me quantify, when I say, the reason that I came out with CertifiedSaunas.com, or the reason that I started tightening up on the EMF requirements for any saunas that I'll list on the blog as certified saunas, is because I started shutting off the breakers at night in my own home. I also sleep on a Magnetico mattress, and I had been shutting off Wi-Fi from a remote switch for a long time, but I had never shut the breakers off. And it wasn't until I watched lecture after lecture after lecture of his, and it kind of got ingrained into my brain. It's like, okay, well, maybe you should test this stuff, because maybe you're having trouble. Maybe the body is not really relaxed at night, and it's not repairing like it could, and you're not getting true deep sleep. Maybe there's some stimulus there that you're not seeing or able to detect. And so, long story short, I did that, and I turn the breakers off every night now. And when I move, or when I build a house or something like that, I'm going to engineer this specifically to where that stuff is removed from the sleeping environment, and it's designed to do that. And so, to bring us full circle, that is what you should be looking for in your sauna. So it is true that far infrared is the way to go if you want to detox, like he's recommending. There's all this nonsense on the internet about near infrared, this, that, and the other. If you isolate near infrared wavelength, it doesn't heat you up. So you want to focus on far infrared. The issue with most far infrared saunas is that they're only low in one type of EMF. And people use the term EMF as if it's a singular descriptive. It's not that type of terminology. There's three types of EMF that can be present in any sauna: magnetic fields, electric fields, and RF radiation. You already know that RF radiation primarily comes from cell phones and things like that. In a sauna, it would come from the stereo system, a Bluetooth module, a Wi-Fi module for your smartphone controller, if the sauna has something like that. So you want to make sure that you get a sauna that doesn't have those things, so that you don't have to tear the roof apart and disable it, or put any type of shielding material in between you and the electronic components in the roof. I've done that. It does work. If you have a sauna, you can do that to keep the radio waves from being so close to your head, and it will reflect them adequately if you double layer a few things, like maybe a thick layer of aluminum foil, not that you'd get from the grocery store, but the thicker stuff, and then say put a piece of aluminum screen in between that, ground that, and then another sheet of aluminum foil. That's all you need. But again, if you're buying a new sauna, there's saunas on the market that I've tested that don't have any of that, so there's no reason to even deal with that nonsense. And for heaven's sake, don't buy into the, if you buy into the third-party EMF reports that the sauna companies put out, you're having the wool pulled over your eyes. These people don't really care for testing all three things, and they don't really care for testing the sauna in its native environment, meaning not taking the heaters out, because that's the environment that your body is going to be subjected to, I should say. So if you're ever reading an EMF report or a certification and it says, one 600 watt heater or three 600 watt heaters tested in a lab in Virginia or wherever, that Intertech place, they all use the same company, you will know right away that the one thing that isn't being shown to you are the electric fields and the magnetic fields from the wiring in the sauna, the power supply, any electronics in the roof from the stereo system, or, all that stuff is connected together. So you got to be really careful of that. Also, the main power cord from the wall that leads up to the power supply, whether or not it's got a transformer in it or not, whether you've got AC or DC heaters, doesn't matter. Your body's in close proximity to a power source that's drawing quite a bit. So you want to be mindful of whether or not they use shielded cabling, this, that, and the other. So all these things go into play. And so if if Dr. Klinghardt, specialized in only saunas, I think his sauna recommendations would be quite different. And so I just wanted to lend a further explanation to, some of the people that might be in the position that I was in, not have access to the equipment to truly test them. My blog is cleverleverage.com. You can see all the saunas that I've bought on there. I started out buying saunas from Costco and Amazon because that's all that I could afford. They were the typical ones that say, low EMF. Then you get it home and you find out it has 100 milligauss magnetic field right here at the source of the heater. Fall off rate's pretty good, but you're still, 15 to 20 milligauss, 6 to 8 inches away. And it was a one-person sauna, so I was like this. So we've got, we've got 60 milligauss at my shoulder. We've got 12 to 15 milligauss at my head. And back then I wasn't even testing for electric fields and body voltage. God knows, if the magnetic fields weren't mitigated, we know for sure they weren't mitigating the electric fields. So body voltage and electric fields would have been sky high on those. And this has been an evolution over the last 2 years, getting more equipment. And you can't just trust people on the internet that have tri-field meters, which is a single little analog meter that tests, electric, magnetic, and RF. For one thing, that meter is awful for doing sauna reviews. It's great for detecting the presence of EMF as a whole, as an A/B selection. So you can test to see if EMF is there. Yes, it is. Then pull the power. No, it's not. It's great for that. But for determining an accurate level in any type of sauna situation, it's awful. For one thing, a tri-field meter will not separate out magnetic fields from other transient fields. So it will influence what you see on the screen just based on whatever else is available in the room. So for example, if I were measuring this sauna with a tri-field meter and I only wanted to know the magnetic fields and I had some camera lights set up that were really close so that you could actually see the screen, the electric fields that would be present at that moment would be influencing the magnetic field readings, and we would not get a true it's not able to decipher what's what. And so that leads to highly inaccurate stuff. People are being really misled with tri-field meter reviews because the RF portion of the meter is awful. It doesn't pick up on RF radiation from any great distance at all, even though it's present in the room. Through walls, you practically have to take it and set it right on top of a Wi-Fi router to start getting the true levels. So the sensitivity of those is just not good. I'm sorry I keep wiping myself, but I'm sweating bullets here. I'm trying to think of what else I was going to say there. I'll put the rest in the follow-up video. And then the other reason to do a part 2 is so that, I'll title this for the Klinghardt followers. And then, so a lot of people don't have access to as much sauna equipment or EMF meters or things like that as I do. So this is part 1. In the comments of this YouTube video, go ahead and put, anything that I didn't clarify that you need to know that will help you along your journey in regards to saunas and EMF. And put any questions that you want answered in regards to Dr. Klinghardt's recommendations on saunas and this, that, and the other. Again, I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. And by no means do I have anywhere close to the knowledge base or the wisdom or the experience of Dr. Klinghardt. I just happen to be a person that really dove deep into saunas. And I've tested personally a lot more sauna brands than most people on the planet. And I still have all the equipment, and I've got tons of camera gear, so it's very easy for me to film videos that will help people. Because when I was looking for saunas, it was a treacherous road. Every sauna company will tell you that their sauna is the best. Every sauna company says that, they've got low EMF heaters and this, that, and the other. Some of them say you need full spectrum to get a deep penetrating detox, or you have to have near infrared and mid infrared in order to get a complete detox. this stuff is total bogus. But when you're, I shouldn't say I'll speak from personal experience. When I've got so much brain fog and anxiety and fatigue, and I can barely get off the couch, or, I wake up at, 6:37 in the morning, and by 9:30 I feel like I need to take a nap, or I just, wake up exhausted like I got hit by a truck, or, just in general, not having very much hope. It's very difficult to do research and read between the lines when there are shysters out there trying to sell you a bunch of shit that is nothing more than a fucking, smokescreen. And that's just how it is. Until the FTC steps in and regulates the sauna industry, there's no standardized testing or anything like that. Anybody can say anything that they want. And so when I was going through this stuff and was a lot worse off than I am now, it was very difficult to research and be able to know what was what and who was lying to me and who was not. And here's the biggest thing is that most of the sauna salespeople or sauna company staff, those people that are telling you all this stuff have generally only been in 1 or 2 saunas in their entire life. Usually it's less than 3. It's always less than 5, unless they're part of the engineering team, a sales manager, or one of the owners. And even then, most of their time is not spent testing saunas or being dedicated and committed to finding the ultra lowest of the low EMF saunas. And so I don't think most people are willing to put in that much effort because they're not truly suffering enough to make it that such a priority. So for me, when I was going through that stuff, it was incredibly difficult. And so my hope is that by putting out this content specifically for the Klinghardt crowd, that we can fill in the gaps on sauna stuff and on low EMF far infrared saunas. Because those guys are incredibly busy, and the other information that they provide us on different types of detox methods and nutrification and just everything that they do is just amazing. And so we want them to stay on that. Saunas is just one thing. They're doing 100 million different things at one time. So, but anyway, incredibly grateful to the Klinghardt protocol or protocols, all the ones that I've come across and experimented with, and all the recommendations and the countless hours and hours and hours of content that they've put out, and the lectures that Dr. Klinghardt has personally done has really, really helped my understanding of a lot of different situations and predicaments that I found myself in. Not all of them are applicable, to everyone, but just the vast amount of knowledge that man has and is willing to share and is very open and genuine and honest. And, my intention is not to make anyone wrong about anything, even if they've made specific sauna recommendations, in the past. No one could possibly keep up with, everything that happens in the sauna world. And if you didn't sell saunas or weren't into infrared saunas, or specifically, were into testing them and doing reviews on them, you would never know the great differences between models of the same brand. So I could tell you that, go buy XX brand, but they might have 3 or 4 different models, and you would never know if you saw some good documentation. And by the way, good documentation for me now is I don't trust any sauna company unless you see them on live video with the right meters showing you the right levels. That's the only way. No third-party stuff. Don't let them defer you to this. And by all means, do not let them, show you an aggregate of customer reviews or whatever. That's very rampant in some of the Facebook groups and some of the forums and on YouTube and stuff like that. A lot of those people really don't know what they're doing. Along with, you'll see reviews from building biologists, and one side of the sauna will have a slightly higher amount of EMF than another side, or higher magnetic fields or electric fields. And they'll say that you should sit on the other side without truly investigating. When in fact, usually all that is either, in some cases, there's a power supply on that side, but typically it's the electrical in the wall from the supply cable, and the sauna is shoved up against the wall because that's how the people have it oriented in the room, and that is where your EMF source is. It's not actually the sauna. So you would want to be mindful of what you're in close proximity with there. If there's dirty electricity in the house, that opens up a whole other can of worms. And then just in general, if you come across any sauna company that tells you that they have a 0 EMF sauna or a no EMF sauna, this is incredibly false. It's not even a truthful paradigm that you should believe in. If something plugs into a wall, it's going to have some level of EMF. Even the sauna that I'm in right now, this is probably the lowest of the low, ultra low EMF saunas on the market. This is the lowest one that I've ever tested in my life. You know, electric fields are below 10 volts per meter. Body voltage is below 30 millivolts. Magnetic fields are below 1 milligauss throughout the sauna up against the heaters. In the seated position, it's lower than like 0.35, which is incredible. And that's with a triple axis Gauss meter that's automatically calculating XYZ. If there's the meters that I have, if there's any EMF in that sucker, it will sniff them out. In fact, other sauna companies, you know, that I'm not favorable of, they complain and say that, oh, well, you know, triple axis Gauss meter is too sensitive. You're calculating this, that, and the other, and it's inflating the numbers. Well, no, it's not. The meters don't lie. It's either there or it's not. Point is, there is always some level of EMF in anything that plugs into a wall of any type. Whether it's minute or harmful, that's a different story. Like, I think this sauna is perfectly safe. And I think, you know, if Dr. Klinghardt were to come here and we were to show it to him and everything else, I think he would be much more so on board with this than a lot of the other saunas that were previously recommended. But, you know, this isn't about any one brand of sauna. It's just educating and making that journey a little bit easier, because I know it was so tough on me. But anyway, so let me know what I should do in part 2. Part 2 is not going to be me sweating in the sauna. I'm going to have a sauna fired up. I'll have all the EMF meters ready to go. We'll use a high-end DSLR camera so you can actually see the levels on the screen. And then I'll have multiple saunas in the room. So I'll be able to show you like a good sauna, an okay sauna, and a bad sauna. So I'll be able to go through, and I'll mimic some of the videos that you can see online from sauna companies where they take a Gauss meter and just go through, or they have customers do a shaky cell phone video and they kind of show you one level and then say it's low EMF. And then I will show you exactly how they're pulling the wool over your eyes with that, and what to look out for, and how you can arm yourself with the right knowledge to make better purchase decisions and truly make sure that you and your family, especially if you have children, are truly in a low EMF environment to heal or to detox. So look forward to hearing your comments in the YouTube video below, and I'll see you in part 2.